In this video, we'll demonstrate how we can create a scatter chart or a scatter plot of different data that we have sampled. So in this spreadsheet, I have some information, just random samples of human height versus human weight. And we can kind of try to find some correlation between those two values. If we just go ahead and insert a chart. So I'm going to select my data here. We'll select column A and B, and I'm going to insert a chart. And here you can see it's already created that this is a scatter. It's pretty good detecting that. And we'll go ahead and just take a look at the chart for a second before we get into modifying it. So you can see here it's kind of given me some default values. It's given me a title here, pounds, or my weight in pounds versus height in inches. And you can kind of look at some of the relation between the data, the relationships between this data. You can see it does kind of follow a pattern. You know, as people are taller, they tend to be a little heavier, which makes sense. You know, there's a taller person there's more of the person, but you can also see that it's pretty common for people to have these weights right around 140 pounds. You know, across the board here, it seems like that seems to be a pretty common weight for a lot of people. You know, regardless of whether they're 5 foot. You know, what is this one? 5'6" and 8. You know, almost 5'7", all the way up to this one, which is almost 6 feet tall. So 72 inches would be 6 feet tall. So you can see there's a lot of samplings there. Now, honestly, this data seems kind of low. It seems like maybe it's probably not super accurate, or maybe it's of a particular reporting. I'm not sure. But you can see kind of a relationship between the data. So if we go back and we edit this, we can change some of or we can customize some of the values here. You can see it's picked up a couple of things very easily. It's picked up our data range. You know, it's picked up what we already selected and identified how we want to set up our series and our axes. You can see that it's set up, you know, it's picked up our headers. But we can also do a few interesting things here. So we can change the style just like normal, and we can maximize the data just like normal. We can change the titles. We can customize those. But here's something interesting: is we can actually plot or kind of predict a trend line. And if we select that, this is going to show us, well, this is kind of what we expect for height versus weight based on all this sample data. So we can look at the points here and see how they kind of line up with this. And you can see, well, someone who's about 140 pounds based on this data, well, we can kind of predict that they're going to be somewhere around this 71-inch mark approximately. So kind of an interesting way to just kind of summarize all that data. Now, obviously, since this is a scatter plot, it's not going to all line up with that line, but it's just basically kind of identifying what the predicted value would be for any new height or weight. So if we got a new height and we didn't know the weight, we could guess approximately that it would be on this line somewhere. And we can change that trend line. We can say, all right, maybe it's slightly different. So linear trend, we got data labels there. Let's go ahead and uncheck these. Linear means that it's just a straight line. Exponential means that it's going to follow some kind of exponential path or polynomial path, so a little bit more of a curve there, logarithmic, but maybe this is a little bit closer. The polynomial prediction here looks maybe a little bit more accurate, which is just kind of giving us a different kind of function for creating this this value. Moving average isn't very useful for us at all. But linear or polynomial tend to be pretty good, accurate depictions of what this prediction might be. We can make that line a little more opaque if we want to. We can change its color. Maybe we want to make it jump out a little bit more, make it a darker yellow. But kind of a nice way to kind of just summarize what this trend looks like. We can modify our legend like usual. So modify, you know, we can change the bold and italic or however we like to see that. We can modify our axes, so we can, you know, treat the labels as text, which is, it's kind of ugly here. We probably don't want to do that here, but we can also reverse that order. So instead of ascending, we're descending. We can set minimum and maximum values if we want this to actually go all the way from 0 to, say, 80. You know, we can set that, and you can kind of see how this is clustering things. But being that we are looking at this comparison here, and there's nothing less than 60, and there's nothing, say, more than 74, we could also just set that min-max. So kind of easy to change the whole scale of your data in this setup. And then we can also modify the vertical axis, and as always, we can change our grid lines. But kind of an interesting chart because it's pretty effective for identifying, if we don't know that there's a distinct relationship or we have a whole lot of measurements here, a scatter chart can work pretty effectively for showing us a picture of the data and trying to make sense of it. They're pretty good for taking a whole lot of data and seeing how it lays out and seeing if we can kind of make any assumptions or draw any conclusions from that data. Thanks for watching. In our next few videos, we're going to get into images and drawings in Google Sheets.